Episode 2, 2026. Kerrod Holland. How you going?
I couldn't be better.
Lovely. Good to see you again.
It's been a little while.
Has. Last time I saw you was very exciting. Little grand final win.
Big grand final win.
Big grand final win.
Yeah.
Was a big grand final win.
It was. It was. Yeah. Great time. Great time to be alive. Great time for the town and the club and for all the individuals that are involved.
100%. Coming back this year?
No, God, no.
No.
Fuck no.
He's
Excuse
done.
the French. Done and dusted,
He's
mate.
done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no, lovely. Well, I wish I could say the same. I can't wait for that day, to be honest. Mate, we'll get into a little bit about your start, your early childhood, late childhood, I guess you'd call it. From my point of view, I really only met you last year when we started playing at the Greyhounds together. You were a fair few years older than me at school, I'd say.
How old are you?
28. Mum fucking pinged me on this last episode because I didn't remember my age. I think I'm 29, actually.
Yeah.
97 I was born. Yes, I'm
97,
29.
5 years younger than me. I'm
5
92.
years
There you
younger.
go. Whatever that works out to be.
There you go. So you would have been leaving school when I went into year 7.
Yeah, I left in year 10, mate. Yeah, so probably not in high
wouldn't
school.
have seen you.
No.
Yeah, wouldn't have seen you. But from the outside looking in, you started as an electrician,
I did.
then went on to play some football in the NRL.
Yeah, Big W before that, actually.
Big W before that.
I'll add a little caveat in there. Yeah, Mum used to
Lovely.
work. Mum, up until retirement, worked at Big W, so she had me in there from 14.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then after the NRL, you've started your now company, Tennex Wealth.
Tennex Wealth, yeah. So
Fantastic.
I'd come out and done my time after I finished playing football. Did
Yep.
about 4 years with a firm in Newcastle, learnt my trade, I suppose, as you call it,
Yep.
and then started the business. It just turned 2, 19th of
Nice.
Jan was its second birthday, so into its third year now, incorporated in Jan 24.
Beautiful. Mate, I'll take it back to the start in let's say year 7. So you moved into high school.
Yeah.
When did you get your first job? 14, was that it?
14, yeah. As soon as I had my 14th birthday, I think I had an interview the week later.
Lovely.
Yep.
Big W.
Big Dub was the interview. Yep, I actually knew the managers interviewing. Mum was a manager at Big Dub, so it was. I knew the team, I knew the role. It was sort of I was essentially walking into a job already there because Mum had sort of pre-prepped me and had been doing so for a long time.
Yep.
So it was a couple of nights a week. It was after footy training on a Tuesday, Thursday. Actually, Luke Knight and I shared the same role. So he did it Monday,
Nighty.
Wednesday, Friday, nighties, and I did it Tuesday, Thursdays. Yeah, back dock boy, just unloading trucks. And
Beauty.
not out on the floor, so to speak, just more in the back dock and driving the forklift, and here's a good time.
Nice. And when did you progress to your next job? After school?
Yeah.
So you've done the Big W all the way through?
Big Dub all the way through, and then started out, got my high school certificate on the Friday, and good friends with the Richards family.
Yes.
They were running single on Electech at the time. Had not an apprenticeship at that time because, funnily enough, Nighty had the apprenticeship there. Again.
Followed him around.
So he'd picked me to the post there. Yeah, they were only putting one apprentice on that year, and I went out and just did a bit of work experience, just get a little bit of cash and the likes in the summer holidays. And Brett had just finished working for Dino at the time and
Yes.
was going back to working for Electech full time, and I was sort of working with him for a couple of months and got to the end of summer, Chrissy break, and said, "Do you want to come back next year?" And they put 2 apprentices on, Nighty and me.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And high school, how was that? Like it? Dislike it? Good or bad?
Yeah, it was a cracking period. Wouldn't have been the best student, naturally. Not too many young males are that I was associated with anyway. Just playing sport and rugby league and anything that you could do to get out of school. So I was a horrendous student. I've actually been back there, I think it might have been last year or 2 years ago, actually, to the school, and I did a little program for...
What school was it? High school?
Yeah,
Or? Yep.
high school,
Yep.
yeah, back to Singo High, yeah, and did a little program there. Actually seen a couple of old teachers, and I didn't think that they'd come and speak to me, but it was nice to see them.
Yep.
But yeah, as soon as I could get out of school, I did, and high school for me was a great period. I mean, who doesn't love hanging out with 20, 30-year best mates day in, day out? So you had a cracking time through high school.
Mate, it's one of them things that when you're at school, you're like, I can't wait to leave. And then when you leave and reality sets in, you're like, I can't wait to go back and start at 9, finish at 3. And some days when you go to school, if you don't want to do anything, you don't have to do anything.
No.
It gets real when you leave.
Yeah, absolutely. You're in the real world.
So anyone that's still at high school, definitely lap that up. Now, apprenticeship with Electech. So done that for 4 years, and stayed on as a tradesman after that, or?
I did, yeah. I stayed on there for a tradie. So it's about 3.5 years until I finished my capstone and got signed off. I got signed off a little bit early, and then I worked there for, all up, I think I worked for about 6.5, 7 years as a Sparky before I went and played footy. So the last 12 months or so was in Newcastle at a firm called Novocaster and Electrical.
Oh, yeah.
Down here, big firm. They've actually got an office.
So you moved. So you've obviously lived in Singleton most of your life, and then while you were working for Electech, you lived in Singleton. And did you move down here? And that's when you got the job with Novocaster and Electrical. Or?
I got the job and then moved. Yeah,
right.
I only moved after I'd got the job.
Yep.
So I still remember handing in. It was actually at the old cinemas in town when I handed in my note to Brett and say that I was leaving. It would have been around, I'm going to say April, because I had been coming down here. That was 2015. Been coming down here for training and the likes at that time. Playing New South Wales Cup, and was fortunate enough to get a job with Novocaster and Electrical, and they were great to me.
Oh, that's good. And so, have you lived in Newcastle since then, or you've moved with footy and then come back to Newey?
I did, yeah. So since I've been out of town, or out of Singleton or home. Moved down to Newey, down here, lived in Mayfield with my brother and a couple of other mates, and then moved down to Sydney to play, and then, straight back. We come back. That was November 2020 when my wife and I moved back. Yeah,
cool. And, mate, let's talk about the footy side of things. So, obviously played footy all the juniors for Singleton. When and how did the path to NRL, how did that happen? When did it start? How did it go? And how'd you get there?
Yeah, I actually played union for a little bit too growing up.
Really?
Yeah, for 4 years. Yeah, from
an easy game,
12s, 13s, 14s, 15s. And then all the boys were playing league that I hung around with, so I went back in the 16s. Had a good year. We were undefeated, second division, under 16s. I got a call to go down and try out for the SG ball team down here in Newcastle.
Straight just from playing in the grand final?
Straight from, playing second division. Got the call to come down here and try out for the SG ball.
Wow.
Didn't make it. Had some blokes in that team that Josh Jackson was in that team, actually. Yeah, he's a Newcastle boy.
There you go.
Funnily enough, all these years later, he's Jacko and I are good mates. He's the godfather of my oldest daughter.
Really?
Yeah.
There you go.
But was unlucky, didn't make it, was working at the time, had an apprenticeship, finished the apprenticeship, probably got to about 21, had won a couple of comps in Singleton at that time. I think we won when I was 2011 and 2012. I was 18 and 19, and then probably got to around 20 after that season in 2013 and went, what's next?
Yep.
I've always had this analogy that I don't want to wonder what if.
Yeah.
Like a rocking chair analogy.
I heard that a lot last year.
Yeah, so I don't want to be sitting there when I'm 85 wondering what if.
Yep.
So I'll give the Newcastle comp a crack, and I can still remember it distinctly. A lot of people told me I wouldn't make the Newcastle comp, and I'd play...
A lot of people from Singleton?
Yeah. Couple of my mates told me that I wouldn't make it and I'd be back. Yeah, Watto, thanks for that, brother. It was probably a pretty good... It's pretty
good little driver.
Ingrained into my memory, that conversation. Yeah, you probably won't remember it. Great mate of mine. But, went down to Cessnock, and the Brown boys were down there, and I'd sort of grown up with the Brown boys and our Lantry at the time, and didn't think I'd make first grade, train my ass off. We had a pretty good year in 2014, ended up playing some first grade down there, played 5 games and made the Rebels team.
Really?
In 2014, after 4 games.
And sorry, step back. So you were playing halfback when you were in Singleton, and then at Cessnock, I believe you transitioned positions?
Yeah, Riley and Joel were the halves at that time.
Beautiful.
So I had no chance. But Kitty, who was the coach, who is a bit of a mentor of mine, put me into fullback, and I'd never played fullback before. But... yeah, it was not too bad, and we had a pretty successful season, 2014. Made it to the grand final. We, funnily enough, I think it was a couple of games. We might have been 3 games out before the semis, and we needed to win every game to make the semis.
Yep.
Just scraped into 5th place. Went on a bit of a run. I think we won 8 in a row, and then got pipped in the grand final against West.
Bloody hell.
But Matt Lantry was the coach of Central Newcastle in 2014.
Yep.
He'd just picked up the New South Wales Cup role for 2015. And I'd got a letter in the mail at the end of that season with a Knights letterhead on it from Matty, and didn't have my number, and he just said, mate, do you want to come down to the pre-season for Cup?
Yep.
And I went, yep, no worries. It'll keep me pretty fit for next year. I'd sign with Cessnock, so that'll be pretty good. It'll keep me pretty fit. So at that time then I was travelling down to Newcastle 3 times a week, training, still working. So work was at 6:30 in the morning. I would leave work early at Electech at 2:30. I'd get down to Newcastle. I'd start gym at 4 till 5. Field was from 5 till 7:30, and then I would drive back home, get home at about 8:45 or so, back into bed, back ready to go the next day, back working. I still remember I used to have a lunchbox. It was like, if you can remember, it was like a 6-pack lunchbox.
Yeah,
if you ever seen that.
I do remember. Yep.
So I had 6 meals made up for the day. So I had my breakfast, I had my morning tea, I had lunch, I had a meal on the way to training, then I had a meal on the way home from training, and I also had my protein shake in there as well.
Yep.
And that was what I used to pack and go to work each day because I was just going to be out all day. So did that over the pre-season. That would have been 2014, over the summer 2014.
Yep.
And there was no guarantee. There was a couple of cuts made them before Chrissy. Come back after Chrissy. We had a couple of trial games and made the cut of 8 blokes to be in the part-time squad for New South Wales Cup.
Yep.
I still remember Matty Lantry handing me the contract. He said, there is no negotiations. You either sign it if you want to play or you walk out of this room and you never play. So I went, all right, no worries. I was pretty excited to just be wearing the Knights logo. So signed it and away we went. Played one game in round 5, 2015 for the Cup at that stage. Played horrendous.
Oh.
We got beat.
Fullback?
No, on the wing. So
Yep.
never played wing before or anything like that. Got dropped. And then round 12, I got another opportunity through some injuries and the likes, and just kept training and went into the centres and didn't miss a game after that. I think I played the next 16 games in a row. Scored 18 tries. We won New South Wales Cup comp down at Parramatta Stadium against Wyong. And I got named in Team of the Year for New South Wales Cup as the only Knights player. And we won the comp that year.
Wow.
And as the only part-time player as well. So everyone else was full-time training in top 30 squads.
And you said that was from round 12 onwards?
Round 12 onwards,
Wow.
yeah. Yep. So round 12 and then all the way through the finals. I actually thought when we made the finals, because Knights first grade were knocked out.
Yep.
So I didn't think that I would have a spot to play for the finals because they had blokes like Nathan Ross, Jake Memo, the Mataudia boys, if you can remember back then. They were all coming back. And I didn't have a spot. And I think it's Pat Matautai had done his knee at training on the Thursday. So I got my stop back and didn't let it go, basically. So, yeah, that's the end of 2015. In that New South Wales Cup team of the year, there was like Damien Cook, Mitch Barnett, Adam Elliott. There's a whole heap of players when I look back at that list. I was only looking back last week for something else that I was doing. Some cracking players in that team.
100%.
That have gone on to bigger and better things, much bigger than what I ever did. But I, to finish off the story, went back into the Knights. Michael Hagan was a recruitment officer at that time.
Right.
And I loved the Knights growing up in the area. They were my team. And Hags had come in. All I wanted was just a pre-season. I said, if you just give me your first grade pre-season, I'll prove myself. Surely I've earned that at this stage. They didn't think I had. Wanted me to spend another year in reserve grade. We'll give you another reserve grade pre-season, and then if you can prove yourself again, we'll have another conversation this time next year. All right, cool, sweet, no worries. Got a call from Michael Maguire.
Yep.
Went down and toured Redfern Oval and seen South. And still remember Cody Walker in there training at that stage. He hadn't played first grade either then.
Right.
He was training in the off-season then. And I thought, this is great. They'd offered me a 2-year deal full-time down there. They had the likes of like GI was there at that stage. I'm like, this is going to be phenomenal. This is going to be, someone I can learn off. And then I got a call from Noel Cleal, who was the Bulldogs recruitment agency, Crusher Cleal.
Right.
To go and meet him and Des at Belmore. And I had a mentor of mine, Peter Peters, who's a Manly great, and he was helping me out through all this transition at the time. And he said, mate, don't sign anything until you go to Belmore. So I went, all right, no worries. Went to Belmore. They had a big presentation up on the screen in their boardroom, as Des does. All my stats, all my carries, all my tries, all my runs per metres, tackles efficiency, offloads, had it all there, everything all up on the screen. I remember it going through the facility, like you can just feel the aura of being in Belmore and the history that's there and how successful they were. And they had the likes of, in the backs, they had Josh Morris, Brett Morris, Sam Perrott, Curtis Rona, Chase Stanley, and Will Hopewade. So they had some fair blokes in front of me.
For sure.
And Des said to me, I don't recruit reserve graders. And that was sort of something that stuck with me. I went, yeah, all right, no worries. If he's putting the effort into me, and I went home and spoke to Dad, and he said, listen, there's probably 3 or 4 Origin players in that mix. There's probably going to be a period through Origin that you may get a crack.
Yep.
So I went, all right, no worries. So end up signing with the Dogs, 2-year deal as well. Moved life down to Sydney, into Belmore. We're staying at the Dogs' house and living in a garage at the minute at the back of the Dogs' house. And that's basically the journey from 16s all the way through to running out.
Mate, that's like one of my favourite sayings is hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. That's the definition of that. Like to get knocked back so many times, and that's a big thing in business as well. Like you can't run a business without setbacks. It's impossible. You can't be successful without setbacks. But to get knocked back so many times and just you knew that you were going to do it. Obviously, you had it in your mind. That mindset was you knew you could make it.
Yeah.
So you had to keep getting back on the horse.
I mean, failure's a part of everything. I love to fail. I fail a lot. I fail often. I try and fail because it just means that I'm trying to get better. And you just learn lots of things from failure. You learn a lot from success, but you equally learn probably more from failure. So one thing that I did when I went down there is they didn't have a goal kicker at the time because Trent Hodkinson had just signed for the Knights.
Right.
So they didn't have a goal kicker. And I went, it's probably a string that I can add to my bow here that if given the opportunity, if that's the difference between me playing and not playing, I'm going to focus on it. So I used to spend, after training each day, out on the field session would be done, and I used to sit there and I'd have to kick 3 goals in each spot, 3 in a row.
Yep.
And if I missed one of the 3, I'd just start again. And
the old Tiger Woods putting scenario.
Yeah, and old Freddie, the manager there, he'd wait out on the field with me, and it's through summer and it's fucking hot, and we'd trained, and he used to get the absolute shits with me kicking the balls back because I'd kick 2 from 3 from the left sideline and miss one, and he'd be like, "That'll do, that's fine, let's just go inside," and I'd be like, "Nah," and he's like, "Fuck you, you're shit," like, you know, just as Freddie does. If anyone's ever met Freddie, he's an Italian fella, love him. He's a cracking bloke, but. I just tried to add that string to my bow, and Des could see me working so hard, and I never got any favours or anything from doing that. And I still remember Tony Grimaldi, who was our fitness trainer at the time. I come back in from probably spending an extra 45 minutes on the field goal kicking, and he goes, Dutchy, as they called me because no one could pronounce Kerrod, so they all just called me Dutchy.
Who can't pronounce Kerrod?
Oh, Jimmy Dimmick, actually. He goes, "Who's that kid there? What's it? Kerrod? Dutchy. Hold on, Dutchy." Yeah, we'll call him Dutchy. So that was Jimmy Dimmick. And I had a 2K time trial on the roller and a 5K watt bike time trial as well. Mm-hmm. And exhausted myself, been on the field, kicked after extras. Everyone was already done. Everyone was already upstairs eating. And Lobby's like, "Dutchy, write your times on the board when you're done, mate. You got your 2K time trial on the roller plus your 5K on the watt bike, mate." And I was like, fuck. I've just spent so much time. This is going to take me another half an hour to do before I can eat, and weights fucking start in half an hour. So it was just, I would just train all the way through and try and differentiate myself to put my best self forward to play.
Yeah.
Sacrifice.
And when you're in the NRL, obviously you made the first grade side. And what reminds me of this is you talking about goal kicking, your debut. That was the famous Kerrod goal kick.
Infamous famous.
Infamous famous.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the pressure of trying to make the NRL, and if there was any pressure whilst you were in the NRL. How was the pressure around that scenario?
Oh, there's always pressures, but I mean, and the old saying goes, it's a privilege to be under pressure.
Yep.
It doesn't feel that way when you're fucking underneath it. But I remember my first game, round 1, the first grade team had played Manly on the Thursday night. Oh, sorry, it was the Friday night. They played Manly, round 1. I didn't make that team. I was playing reserve grade at Henson Park playing against Newtown. And I got shepherd's hooked after about 60 minutes. And I thought, what the fuck? I'm not playing that bad. What the fuck's going on here? Like, fuck, this is a hard club to play for. I remember I had the shits in the middle of Henson Park. And the first grade physio walked out in the middle and he said, "Mate, you haven't been hooked. Chase Stanley isn't playing Thursday night against the Panthers. Des has made the call. You're making your debut." So I'd gone from going, fuck, what have I done to, holy shit, I'm playing in 5 days' time.
Wow.
And then Des, his brilliance, mate, is when he told me, he said, "I don't want you goal kicking. I just want you to focus on your game. You've got a job to do. So in that game, Moses actually kicked the first goal. The second one came out from a very similar spot from where I kicked the last one. And Tony Grimaldi just handed me the tee as I was walking back, getting a drink, and he said, just put this one between the post, kid. I went, oh, fuck, all right, no worries. So I hadn't been thinking about it, didn't think about it all day, and I'd been through the process so many times, hit it sweet, went through the post. Moe scored on the bell, and Lobby come running out. He handed me the tee again. He said, just do the same thing again, kid. So if you're talking about pressure, I didn't even know there was any. I was still thinking that I was playing at Cessnock Oval, as I was 12 months beforehand. I really had no idea around the enormity of the event that there's 20,000 in the stadium, but there's 100,000 watching online. So that was a brilliance of Des that I didn't understand or know that there was any pressure. But following on from that, you definitely get, then people know who you are, and you can know, you walk down the street and people know who you are, and there's always a pressure to perform. And we didn't have the greatest level of success when I was there. So I made it's tough, and it's probably one thing that I didn't deal with great when I was there. But you learn, you get better.
And tell us about the interview after. How'd that
go? Words come out wrong.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah,
in my opinion, they come out perfect. It's
you got to have confidence in yourself. And I remember what I meant to say. I mean, I'd kick the goal after the game. The boys had mobbed me, and then literally I'd turn around and Freddie's got the mic in my face. So as you can imagine, the emotions are running absolutely crazy at that stage. And I meant to say, like I said, Freddie, it was always going over. But I remember I hit it that sweet that when I looked up, there's a video of me sort of fist bumping before the ball was even through. Because when I looked it up and I hit it that sweet, I was like, oh, it was always going over, which is, I meant to say, it's always going over after I looked up.
You looked up, right.
Yeah. But I didn't get that video.
It ended up well anyway. It's perfect. And how important when you're in the NRL is I guess, routine. For me, running a business, routine is the thing that keeps me on track as a business person, and even playing football at a low level for the local greyhounds and whatever, gym, all of that. If I don't have a routine that I stick to, everything falls apart. What's the routine like in the NRL, and how crucial is that?
Oh, it's discipline. It's a discipline to continue and stick to that routine. So I used to have plenty of routines that I would stick to game day, and we'd have our entire process, and it changes every week depending on when you're playing, but generally from about 3 days out or about 72 hours out, especially 48 hours out. So just before captain's run, I would go off all social media, couldn't contact me by phone. I wanted to try and keep my head clear as much as possible. And then I just had we used to work with a mindset coach as well. So, beforehand I'd do a little meditation where I would visualise me driving to the ground. I'd visualise game day. So
Is that every player that works with a
used to be,
mindset coach?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, just go through, and he'd have different techniques for everyone, because what worked for me wouldn't work for James Graham if you've ever been inside his head. Fucking hell. But yeah, so I'd visualise driving to the ground. I'd visualise, I knew where the car spot was underneath ANZ Stadium at the stage. I'm not sure what its name is now. Walking around, seeing the security guards, smelling the smell, getting strapping done, warm up, massage, running out onto the field. And then I used to know what my job was so explicitly, because I'd seen it before, and you'd do it 1,000 times beforehand. You'd watch so much film before the game. So the preparation was massive. Obviously, it doesn't come off we play with it's not a circle ball, it's an oval-shaped ball, and there's all human factors that go into it. So
definitely.
But the process was nearly always the same. And it was a discipline to try and stick to it, to try and compete at the highest level that you could get your body to each and every week.
Mate, I'm big on that. I read a book recently, which I've already said on here before, The Law of Attraction, The Secret, which is about manifestation. And even you go back to the grand final that we played for the Greyhounds, and I swear to God, I was telling Paige and the kids all week, I was like, I'm going to score a hat trick. I'm going to score a hat trick. And I was just going, I'm going to do it. And I think I'd scored all year I scored one try in first grade. But I was like, no. I'm going to score a hat trick. Didn't get the hat trick, got a double, but still, you've got to believe in what you're going to do. You've got to see what you're going to do. And if you see it and believe it, as the famous McGregor says, it will come true. So I didn't know that they had them coaches in the NRL. That's really cool. Really cool. Mate, talk about financially during the NRL. So obviously you're in a I guess, what does Tennex Wealth, what are they about, firstly?
So we're advisors.
Yep.
So I built the business off the back of the training that I'd gone through and some of the things that I was doing, and I just wanted to be a different type of advisor. So you can, put people into products and things like that, but for me, that wasn't really it's not really sexy sort of advice, if I can say it that sort of way.
Sure.
So I really like to understand the individual because everybody's different, and trying to determine exactly what they want, because what I think is advice or great advice might not be applicable to everybody. So I've found a good niche of working with business owners because I'm a business owner myself, and it's fucking hard to run a business. So
That's why I'm bald at 28.
there's three things that I usually go through, and it's, what do you want personally, and what do you like personally? How's the business going, and what's the business like? And the reason why those two are so important, because if either one of those two fall over, you can have the best plan in the world, but if there's no business or there's no person to run the business, I don't give a fuck who you are. There's nothing to protect or to invest or anything like that. So we go through those two things first to make sure that, one, you're great and what your goals are, and then two, the business is great and can have sustained success, so that then that's only once then can you go and do things financially. And there's a multitude of different things. We live in Australia. There's plenty of investments and the likes. And yes, I like getting into that sort of things. But I set up Tennex as a wealth advisor for mainly business owners. Probably 80% of my clients are business owners that look like me.
Yep.
That are growing businesses. And just as different sort of structures and assets and things that you can get into nicely if you're a business owner.
Which I will get into that shortly. I think I've only started learning about that in the last 12 months. And one, I really enjoy it. But two, it is crucial if you want to make money, especially in a country that taxes you at nearly 50% on some things. It can easily put you in a hole. But taking a step back, so knowing like what you know now, how was your, how was the financial situation being in the NRL? Like, did that put a stress on anything outside of the NRL itself? Did you have to do things on the side to live? Did you have a family at that stage?
I did.
Yep.
Yeah. So, mate, living on an NRL wage is great if you can live on those sorts of things forever.
Yep.
But it doesn't last forever, and that's probably one thing that I'm a big believer in, is that you just, whatever income that you've got, you should always live below your means. So no, I didn't have any other job. It's a full-time gig. NRL wages are great. A lot of people will see the headline figure and say they earn so much, but by the time you take out super, tax and your management fees, which works out to probably be 55 to 60% of their wage. So if someone's on $1 million, they're probably really in the hand. They're probably getting $450. Because managers will be, so your tax, when you're at the highest marginal bracket, it's 47 cents in the dollar. So there's nearly half gone. You got your super on top of that as well, which is 12%.
I didn't even think about them being in that tax bracket.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was thinking, but they're 47% straight away gone.
No way to get around it. Not because you're just a PAYG, and then
you got Nicky Politis in your back pocket.
Well, maybe. But then you pay your manager anywhere from 3 to 7% as well.
Wow.
So there's a fair bit that comes out already. And, which is okay. You get paid monthly, so it's very hard for blokes to manage their money on a monthly wage and or salary.
Yeah.
And a lot of these blokes are coming straight out of school, 18, 19, have never been given any money and will get a 3-year deal for $300,000 a year or whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like a lot, but it's still probably going to be $3,000 a week or $12,000 a month in your hand. But by the time that you pay your rent and your food and your things like that, they may look like they're going really well, but they'll go and buy a nice new car, or they'll go and buy things that they probably shouldn't too early.
Especially being in like imagine signing a bare minimum salary with say the Roosters in Bondi. Rent and houses are going to be expensive there. So what if you're signing say 250K contract with the Roosters? That's going to put you in the 47% tax bracket. So straight away you're halving that already. Plus your rent there is going to be, I mean, you'd probably share it with someone, but you're looking at in between $1,000 to $2,000 a week. That it all adds up.
It does.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And you've got to like, there's a certain level of professionalism that you need. So you've got to maintain it. So you've got to be eating good food. You've got to be, all of the recovery side of things is all got to be there. So they all take a cost to make sure that you're maintaining it. Like, I used to have an exercise physiologist that I'd work with in the off season. And he costs money. Like, he doesn't just do it for free. So all those sorts of things, cost money. So it's not all that it's cut out to be that it's all great. And you think you're bulletproof at that stage, so you think that money's going to continue forever. Yep. So you spend it like it's going to be coming in forever. But it doesn't. When I finished up playing, I come back to Newcastle here.
Yes.
And I went to work in part-time. 50 grand a year is what I was on as I was retraining. And so it was about $800 a week in the hand, $750 a week in the hand. Mm-hmm. My rent was $550.
Yeah.
And I had, Emily wasn't working at that stage, my wife. I had a 2-year-old and Emily was 8 months pregnant with our second. So if you don't put your money away or put it in a good places to start with, rugby league players tend to get themselves in a little bit of trouble.
And did you have that fall back on? When you were playing for the NRL, did you set yourself up so when this happened, you've obviously done well now, and obviously it wasn't dire straits at this stage either?
No, it wasn't. But I had to go and take a second job. It's probably why I played for the Scores to make ends meet at that stage. And a lot of players do come back as long as they come back for the right reasons. But yeah, you've sort of got to make ends meet any way possible. And yes, I was doing a little bit with my money. I'd bought a house in Singleton when I was a Sparky and had bought another one while I was playing. So I was fortunate enough to try and put myself in a good position when I finished.
Yep, definitely. And is there anywhere in the NRL that these players have access to, I guess, a company like yourself to mentor them through this stage? Is that something that you want to get into?
The education piece is big to me. Yep. I'd love to. I used to play with Clint Newton. He was the
good
captain.
Fella.
Yeah,
very good fella.
Yeah.
We do a bit with him. We put his solar on his house, and
there you go.
Since then we've done a fair bit with him with like our golf charity days and whatnot. So he's a really good fella.
He is. Yeah, Newts has always got the jack that they run with the golf, and his father
that was huge this year.
Yeah,
let me tell you.
So he's the CEO of the RLPA.
Yep.
So I've been trying to get in there for a little while with Newt and calling him and emailing him, and he's a very busy man. So I've had no success just yet. So maybe next time you chat to him, maybe mention his
mate, if you come to our golf day on the 24th of April, he'll be there. I'll pair him up with you in a team. So he's got 4 hours with him to talk his ear off.
I fly back from Vietnam on the 23rd, mate. So
beautiful. Straight into it. And mate, talk to us about the transition from leaving the NRL. Obviously, you said you come back to Newcastle, started playing with the Scorps, $50K salary with another company. Talk to us about that transition and then how you moved into Tennex Wealth, which I want to get into shortly about a fair bit there actually. But what was that transition like, and when did you decide, righto, I'm going to do this Tennex Wealth business, and how did you get to that stage?
I mean, I always wanted to run my business. I didn't really mind if it was going to be an electrical business because I still had the trade. I didn't really mind what it was going to be, but I had a passion for helping people and a passion for money and finance that I'd always had. And I'd made the decision to study an economics degree when I was playing because at that stage, I'd had a couple of surgeries. I didn't really want to be going back to a mine site 10, 12 hours a day. Didn't really appeal to me, so I wanted to use my mind for work. So yes, I'd set myself into a position where I could go back and study. I could go back on the minimum sort of wages and go and relearn before I'd earned sort of decent amount of money. So I took that time, and as an advisor, you've got to do what's called a professional year after you do your training. So an economics degree isn't enough to become an advisor. I had to do a postgraduate degree as well, or postgrad, which was another 2 years, another 8 units. So I'd basically studied for nearly 7 years. And then you do a professional year on the back of that. Very similar to a Sparky where you've got to do a capstone. You've got to do what's called a FASIA exam, which is a written 3.5-hour exam to become an advisor, your 12 months worth of structured training. But after that, I could see during that transition that I always knew I wanted to run my own business and run my own show. And 10X for me was, I found myself a great mentor who helped me sort of open 10X and everything behind it, because I wanted to be a great advisor, and just like many business owners are usually great at what they do, whether they're an electrician or a mechanic or whatever business they're in, but being a business owner is totally separate.
Yep.
And no one really tells you how to do that or what that looks like. So I found myself a mentor that guided me through that process, and he's been great for me. And then, 10X was sort of born, and you work all the beautiful things starting at day one again.
Lovely. Now, let's get into 10X. So, what would you say is what's the main thing you do with 10X? So, for people listening at home and they're like, well, righto, like, would 10X suit me? Or why would I sign up to be a part of Kerrod's 10X program? What's it about? What do you do? How can you help them?
It's a cracking question. So 80%, as I said, 80% of my clients are business owners, people that run businesses that want to make sure that they're minimising their tax as much as possible. And if they're looking to build and grow their wealth for the future, how they do that in the best possible way without just stripping money straight out of the business.
Yep.
It's a bit like cutting the head off a snake, which is one thing that I tell you not to do. Your business is going to be the biggest asset that you'll ever have. I'll have no investment for you that'll outperform your business if it's putting into the right place.
Yep.
Like if you can grow the revenues in the business and you can have X amount of dollars at the back end of it, well, I can't give you anything. Like on a dollar for dollar basis, you're better off getting your business to a certain point and then building wealth after the back of it. So help a lot of business owners through structures and investments and things like that through family trusts and companies and bucket companies and the likes. Also help pre and post retirees. A financial advisor before you retire is pretty critical, and you're in I'll call it a danger zone, probably 36 months out from retirement, sort of 3 years, because there's some things that you should be looking at with your superannuation. It'll be generally the largest asset that you'll have outside your family home, and it's going to be the thing that is going to provide your retirement benefits. So understanding how it's invested, understanding what the fees are associated, understanding if you can get any tax benefits now while you're still working, understanding if you, like we live in Newcastle and or Singleton, so there's plenty of mines around.
Yep.
And I work with so many clients that have been operating for 20, 25, 30 years, and they'll have all these leave entitlements. So it's about trying to structure those so that you can minimise your tax now, try and get some money in a super, try and pay off your home, and maximise those benefits. So it's quite a common strategy that, if applicable, depending on what pitch you work at, you can take some of your entitlements at half pay, which means that you can prolong it. You can get a really good indication around how much income that you need in retirement.
Yep. Which is really important.
Yeah.
Really important, because you think, like, a lot of people think, I'm going to retire with $3 million in super. Depending on what your lifestyle is, it's not going to get you far.
No.
Especially if you live for 30, 40 years after you crack into it.
Yeah. And so the danger period is around maximising your super, because you're at maximum wealth the day you retire.
Yep.
It's only going to come back from there, because you're going to start to live off these investment assets or your superannuation. So how it's invested is really important, because you don't want a market correction or crash when you're retired and it drops 20, 30%. And there goes, if you're at maximum wealth, there's no more money going in.
Yeah.
So things like that are really important. And a bit that I love helping retirees with is similar to business owners, is you've had a sense of purpose for your job for the last 20, 30 years. What happens the day you stop? And unfortunately, I've seen so many clients previously where they don't have a purpose anymore. They lose that. And I've seen that firsthand when I finished playing rugby league. It's fucking challenging, excuse the French, mentally. But they start to spiral out of control health-wise, because they'll just go and sit on the lounge, or they won't do anything, or they don't have a purpose to get up and be motivated, where they don't have to be on site at 6 o'clock every morning. So when we talk about retirement, always talk about, not what are you retiring from, which is work, but what are you retiring to? What are you actually going to go and do?
Yeah.
So helping a lot of people down that avenue, and then also help people that are, want to accumulate wealth. They're probably not a ongoing client for me. You probably only need to see a financial advisor probably once, get things established, set up, get the foundations great, make sure that you're not paying off, or you don't have horrendous debt, cars and, shit that you shouldn't have, boats and all the likes. I mean, you really shouldn't be investing if you've got an 8% interest or a 10 or 12%. Pay that shit off first before you start investing. So just making sure people have got the right structures in place. And yes, I do help people like that that are usually on good money and they've got some surplus cash flow and they want to build wealth, and we just get the structure right for them and go, this is what XYZ looks like. Let's set you up initially. You go and do it, come back and see me in 5 years or so. Yeah,
no, that's perfect. And mate, a couple of things that I took out of that. So one of my goals in life is to create generational wealth. So and it's a fine line. Like, I want to create enough wealth that my kids don't have to work, but I want them to work, because I need them to learn what I've learned so that can continue on, right?
How do you do that?
Mate, two things. I've got to set myself up properly first so I can create that money to when I'm gone, there's nothing they need to do to still have that income. So I have a passive income when I'm gone, and it's all set up in certain structures, which we'll talk about in a second, that it's not a hassle when I'm gone for them to have to move things or change company structures or anything like that. And secondly, I've got to teach them, I guess, what I'm learning now and what I know. So when I am gone, they don't just go, oh, righty, we've got all this money here, let's just spend it. So I do that now. Like, obviously, my two youngest are too young. They're 4 and 2. But Jack and Blake, 10 and 12, like we've opened bank accounts up for them. They've read the Kids Barefoot Investor. That's where I started. And just little things like that on where to put your money, why we're putting money there. Some things, and like things that schools don't teach you, which I think are really important, is like how the banks work, how tax works, how to set up your money, interest rates, all them kind of things that no one teaches you. Like I think the biggest misleading, I guess, venture in Australia is you want to buy your first home. Buy your first home. It's like me now, knowing what I know now, terrible advice.
It's great 30 years ago.
It was fantastic. But it's there's just so much more you can do with it. Like even us now, we owned a lovely home in Singleton there, and we sold that and we rent. Like we rent at the moment, and we just got a rental in Adamstown. We moved in for 3 months, and we don't like it, so we moved to Merewether in 2 weeks. You can do that. You can move around. You're not locked in. And people are like, oh, why do you rent? Like, without going into it too much, the place that we're moving into in Merewether is a $6 million home. That's going to cost me about $15,000 a month in mortgage repayments, or it's going to cost me $8,000 a month in rental repayments, half the price. And I can spend that extra $8,000 that I'm not putting towards a mortgage that's getting me nothing except capital growth in another property that someone's going to pay me an income for, and it's also going to have capital growth.
Your structures will be important there, because if you're paying $15,000 a month, I mean, I see it all the time, is that, yes, it's $15,000 a month, but that's after tax.
Yeah.
So once you pull that out of the business, $15 grand a month, $180 grand a year.
Correct.
So the business has got to be, for you to get $180 grand in after tax money, means you've got to be on a salary of
60 something thousand.
You've got to be on $300 grand a year. So for the business to be able to do that sustainably, and that's just for the home, and
Correct.
that's for the next 30 years.
Yeah.
So you've got to have a great business for the next 30 years.
Yeah.
Because if you can halve that, then you don't have to be on so much, and you can keep money either in the business or you can invest it through other different avenues that are available to you as a business owner. So
definitely.
Yeah, there are different things available.
And the other thing that I wanted to touch on as well that I got from what you were saying is, and it's the worst advice I think I've ever gotten from a business point of view when I first started. Tax is obviously a lot of money when you're looking at it from just a cash flow point of view. And I always got told tax is good. If you're getting taxed, you're making money, which is true. But you don't just want to sit there and cop every bit of tax they throw at you. Not a chance. Which we'll get into now. The structure's a way, like you want to legally minimize your tax as much as possible. And there's so many legal ways to do that, that all the wealthy people do. And I guess the people that are starting businesses don't. And I'm only just starting to get into that now. So Harris Electrical, obviously I'm the director of, and I was 100% shareholder, owner, personally. And as you grow, so I've had 3 accountants and they've all been fantastic accountants, but as you grow, you outgrow certain accountants as well. They're very, like, you could have accountants that are really good from $0 to $2 million, and then accountants that are good from $2 million to $10 million, and then so on. So the accountant that I got 12 months ago, as soon as I went to him, he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, paying tax, brother, like making money. And he's like, no. So we have just gone through a restructure there of Harris Electrical where, and again, I'm still getting my head around it all, but essentially, Cooper sold Harris Electrical to a holding company. So we've got a family trust, Harris Family Trust, and we've got like a bucket company as such, which is the holding company. So we sold Harris Electrical to that, and now Harris Electrical owes me the money that we sold it. The company that we sold it to, the holding company, owes us the money that we sold it to it for, and by doing that, we can transfer money in them companies, because we've got a few other companies as well below that, and we're not, 1, paying ourselves a high salary, and 2, we're not paying the Divisional 7A loan tax on taking money out and moving it around and all that kind of rubbish. We're just paying company-to-company tax, which is about 30%. So talk to me a little bit about that and why you think it's so important. And is it important if you're just someone that has one business? And if it isn't, is there a point where that business is going to get to a certain growth that it is important to restructure? Or is it important to have the right structure at the start? And what, I guess, let's talk about my business for now. What is the best structure for me to have in that scenario?
I think you've probably got it. And naturally, when you start as a business owner, you never think long term. It needs to start. So I didn't when I started the business, there was no family trust to start with, but it was pretty quick that I got to a certain point where I could see it to be profitable. That my accountant said, let's move this thing now. So we went, okay, no worries. So if the business isn't profitable, there's no need. There's no need to have additional trusts or anything like that. It's as soon as you can see that the business is going to be profitable, at that stage, it always makes sense. Not always. I shouldn't say that this isn't financial advice.
Yes, we need to touch on that. No financial advice here. We're just having a yarn.
No. But as soon as it becomes profitable, it would make sense for you to look at other structures that are available to you. Now, there's a couple of key things that you need to understand around PSI, which is personal services income. If you're just a solo operator and you try and have a family trust, the government's too smart for that. They're just going to go, you're only doing this for tax evasion and you'll get taxed anyway. So there's no real point. But as soon as you add an employee into the business, you come to PSB, which is personal services business, which means that it's not you only generating the income. And then if you've got a profitable business after that, when you go, okay, now there's some structures that I can cap my tax rate for me personally, and then also for the business. And if it's a trading entity, it's 25 cents in the dollar. You can have a holding company that'll own the business and you can move money between the two after it's paid tax, always after it's paid tax. So there's nothing ever there because you'll always pay the tax. You can have family trusts that own it. You can distribute those profits out to families or family members or generally someone in a lower tax bracket.
Yes.
Now, I got in, or not in trouble, but I had a couple of comments saying it's usually the wife or the female that gets distributed these sort of profits. And then I had a lovely business owner that was a lady and said, it's 2026, big fella.
Don't be saying that.
Don't be saying that. And I said, look, I've got two girls. I hope they run businesses too. So this was just my circumstance, but I understand that there's plenty of female business owners out there that do run cracking businesses. At that point, then, you can distribute it to other family members. But if you don't need any additional income, well, there's things like bucket companies and investment companies where you can put the money into another company. And then that's where you build your generational wealth. That's where it'll hold the assets. And you're not the physical owner of it. No one in the family is. The family trust is. And that's the thing that stays around forever. So a lot of business owners have got similar goals around. They want to make sure that their wealth that they've got in the trading entity transfers over to something that they've got control over but can stay in the family for a very long time. Don't have to worry about any tax implications or consequences if someone kicks the bucket.
Definitely. And why is it important you mentioned it there, why is it important to have these things in a trust other than owning them personally for example, I own Harris Electrical 100%. Why would it be important for me to move Harris Electrical to the trust and me not own it?
Asset protection is the first one. Is that if anything happens you might not even be on site, but if one of the boys hooked up something on a tin shed and someone touches it, and God forbid, touch wood, this never happens, but things go wrong.
Definitely.
And you're liable, and they come after the director and the director's assets. So if you're the director solely and wholly of the business, great. Okay, what's Cooper got? Oh, Cooper's got a family home.
Everything.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Perfect.
Cars.
All of it.
Boats.
Yep. All in Cooper's name. Well done, Coop. You've done really well. Congratulations, mate. But the liability that you've now got is we're going to take those assets. So asset protection is the first one and foremost. So a lot of business owners or business structures, wherever the risk is, they will usually be the director, but have and hold no assets personally. The spouse, where there is less risk, will then usually hold the assets and or a bucket or investment company. So you're removing the risk from yourself as a director and placing that, segregating yourself. If I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, definitely. So what that means is if Harris Electrical is now owned by the trust and we're trustees or beneficiaries of the trust, if someone comes into Harris Electrical and goes, as you said, we hook up a shed and God forbid someone touches it and something happens, if they come after Harris Electrical, all the assets and if you're doing it properly, majority of the money that you don't have just sitting in the bank there for Harris Electrical is owned by the trust. So if you have $5 in Harris Electrical, they're going to get $5 and that's that. Everything else is in the trust. They can't touch it.
That's right.
Now, why is it important, in your opinion, to... So I've just drawn a little picture here. Terrible. I'm using my finger on an iPad. It sucks. But at the top here, this one here is the trust.
Yep.
And then I've got all different companies down here. So all these ones are different companies, which is a very similar structure to what I have at the moment. So
Yep.
H is Harris Electrical, B is a building company, I is my investment company. This is another company that we don't have. So why is it important to go... do these own these directly, or are we going to put in there a holding or a bucket company in the middle? What's your opinion on that? And do you think it's important to have that or not have that?
It's important, but it really depends what your long-term goals are. So if you are never going to sell the business to anyone else, a holding company makes sense because you'll keep the corporate tax rate at 25 cents on the dollar.
Yep.
If it's owned just from a family trust, and then you've got bucket companies on the backside of that, where then you're moving money, well, you pay the top-up tax at an extra 5%.
Yep.
Because a non-passive entity pays tax at 30 cents on the dollar. So if you've paid tax at 25 in the trading company, because it is active, and you move it to somewhere passive, well, you got to pay top-up tax. 5% doesn't sound like much. When you're a business owner and you do $1 million in profit, it's an extra 50 grand. So
And you don't have to pay that on the holding company because it's not a trading entity. Is that...
Well, it's not because it's not a trading entity. It's because it receives its income basically from the trading entity.
Yes, righto.
So if it's on the backside, so if you I can't.
No, it's fucking terrible, isn't it?
If it was over here,
Yep.
and the money flowed through this way, and then to this company, well, this is when you pay the top-up tax this way.
Yes.
But if it comes through to here in this holding company, then this holding company can either come down through to here and give loans away if you want at 25 cents. It can come up with a trust and then come out to, little coop down here.
Yep. Put some big arms on him.
There's some stick figure drawings there.
Beautiful.
So the trust allows you to distribute that, but a holding company in the middle allows you to move it between company and company and take it at 25 cents. Now, this isn't financial advice or accounting advice.
Not at
this
all.
is just some general information.
And I think it's really important for people to know that as well. So this is the structure that I have set up at the moment. So this is Harris Electrical over here. And if it's making, say, $1 million, we can transfer that money into the holding company here. And then we've got a company over here, which is just an investment company. So this is where we make all our investments. So if we want to buy commercial property, residential property, put money in shares, whatever it may be, we can transfer this money to the holding company. And then we can, so for here, we're going to pay out, say, 30% tax. What's the exact figure on that?
25.
25. So we'll pay our 25% tax, our business tax here, when it goes to the holding company, instead of paying it to little Cooper down here. And if I'm paying myself, if I want to buy a $2 million investment property, I've got to pay myself, as we spoke about $300,000, which is going to be 47% tax. So I'm essentially paying $180,000 in tax. Here, I'm paying nothing near that. And then I can loan the money from the holding company to this investment company. Now, because the holding company doesn't trade, there is no terms on when I have to pay that money back or any interest on that either, is there?
That's right. There's no Div 7A in between company to company. If it goes company to Cooper, that'll be classed as a Div 7A, but company to company, no.
Yeah. So I can loan, if just say Harris Electrical makes $1 million, I can push that to the holding company and then I will loan the money. So I'll pay 25% tax on that. So I will then loan the money to my investment company, have $750K left sitting there, and I can go and purchase multiple properties to then have an income. And once I start making a big passive income in here, say it can be a year's time, it can be 10 years' time, I can pay that money back into the holding company and then start another company over here and do the same thing.
Yeah. It gives you a plethora of different options. Now, someone might go, okay, well, why do I need the holding company? Why can't I just go from Harris Electrical down to the investment company? Like, why would I need a holding company? It'll look like an asset on the balance sheet.
Yes.
Of Harris Electrical if there's a loan out there. It'll show up on the balance sheet of $1 million. So we go back to the asset protection point of view, though, and something were ever to happen in Cooper's shed scenario, the asset on the balance sheet can be, not clawed back, but they'll say, there's $1 million worth of assets in here, we'll have it. And you go, well, it's in that investment company over there.
Yep.
So I'm going to have to sell that to get it back if you want that money. So the holding company allows you to move money in a tax-effective environment, but segregating it away from litigation risk.
Yep, definitely.
Yep.
And once the holding company starts making a good buck and it's got a lot of money sitting in there from all the businesses you have, you then can push that to the trust, and then you've got little Coop over here, and you've got Paige, and you've got all the kids that are above 18 years old, and you can start taking the money out of there to all the beneficiaries of the kids.
One thing that you haven't mentioned there is that on your $1 million scenario, and that you pay the 25% company tax, you get a franking credit.
Yes. Don't forget the franking credits.
Don't forget the franking credit. Yeah, people just go, it's 25% tax, yes. But Paul Keating, under the Hawke government in 1985, created the imputation tax credit system. It means you only pay tax once.
Yep.
So if a company you own has paid tax and then that money in a roundabout way finds its way down to you in X number of years, you can take that income and let's say it's $100,000 a year or $2,000 a week. You have to pay, I think the tax on $100,000 a year works out that you'd need a salary of $140,000 to get actual $2,000 in your pocket. So there's $40,000 worth of tax to pay. But you go, I've got franking credits at $250,000 from that tax I paid 10 years ago. How about you have that? So when you finally do get the money back into your name, you get all these franking credits, which is essentially tax that you've already paid.
Yep.
Which is a nice benefit that a lot of people don't understand. They go, I don't want to pay tax because I don't like paying tax. Well, it's okay. You end up getting it back.
Yep, definitely. Now, another thing which I actually raised this to my accountant the other day, and he was like, he said, now we're getting into a real grey area. And he was like, you can do it, but you need to have documentation and whatnot. So what if, so let's just say, so I've got, all my kids are under the age of 18, so I don't have the benefit of putting money up here to the trust and giving it to them to use as myself for tax benefits. Not myself, they'll use it. But you know what I mean? I'm not buying them holidays anymore. I'm not doing that stuff. They can spend their own money.
Yeah.
So what if I was, so that the tax-free threshold is $18,000, right?
Yes.
So what if I was to have, say, this other company over here that, the young fellas, or even Harris Electrical, or this company over here, the 10 and 12-year-old wanted to do pamphlet drops and they wanted to, do yard maintenance and things like that. How do you go about paying them $18,000 a year to keep that under the tax-free threshold?
It's got to be 14.
Got to be 14?
Yeah, as of age, I believe, but I'm not an accountant, but I believe it's still 14.
Yep.
Is when you can start to transition into that. The reason being is that if you pay them and they are not, so if you pay a child and they're not of working age, anything over $416 gets a penalty tax rate of 67%.
Really?
Yeah.
So
don't do that.
And when did they bring in the rule about the trusts being 18?
A lot of people used to do that.
Because they would have, the people who'd done it before then.
If you had 3 or 4 kids, you'd say 18 free tax-free that you could go to. But it wasn't, obviously the government wants to, it's a bit like tax evasion. That the only sole purpose that you're doing that is for tax evasion. So you go to jail for that sort of shit.
Yeah.
So I don't mind paying tax, but not $1 more than is necessary.
100%. Yeah, definitely. And going back to my original question, when do you think it's important for, and when is it not important for businesses to start looking at their structure, and when should they dive into things like this?
If you've got plenty of assets, I would be looking at it.
And assets being cars, houses.
Houses. If you've got a couple of investment properties and you're the sole director, well, you're leaving you probably got your neck out.
Yeah.
So don't do that. For the sake of trust financials, it might cost you $2,000 a year for your accountant to do trust financials. So you want to make sure that you do it before the business gets too big. If you're trying to sell a business and it's making profits, it's going to cost you. I.e., so if Cooper sells the business back to Harris Family Trust, there's going to be a cost associated with that. And yes, you can get the small business discounts and all the things, but essentially you've done it on paper. But Cooper's now got a tax bill. Because it's like Cooper's just earned an extra $500,000 on the sale of this business. And he goes, well, there's no money changed. All I did was really just change the entities.
Yeah.
So you want to do that before the business valuation gets to a certain point.
Yeah.
Which is usually just before it becomes profitable.
Yeah.
Small business assets is what you're talking about with the concessions. Yeah, it's either that or $2 million worth of revenue.
Yeah.
$6 million in assets or $2 million in revenue for the year, and it steps up, and there's a concession that you can no longer get, but which is the active asset concession.
I think the way that we structured ours, and again, like let's just say I sold Harris Electrical to our trust there for $2 million. Then, as you said, that means that I've just earned $2 million.
It's like you just sold a house for $2 million.
So I've got to pay tax on that.
Yep.
Now, straight away, I get 50% off from small business concessions.
Yeah.
So that goes down to $1 million that I've got to pay tax on. And then from there, I get another 50%. What for?
So you got the active asset, which is if it's under that threshold of the $6 million in assets or asset value, and $2 million under trading. There's another one, I believe, that if you've held it for longer than the 12 months trading, so similar to
that's the one that I had.
Any CGT event.
Yep.
Depending on how long you've owned the asset for, too. I believe there's another one. Now, don't quote me on that. I believe that there's 4.
Right.
You get the active asset, you get the CGT for 12 months, and I think that there's one, it may be for 10 years, but I've never sold a business or owned one for 10 years, so I don't actually know. And then there's another one around superannuation that you can actually put that benefit into super.
Correct. So that was my next thing. So essentially, we've sold the business for $2 million. Straight away, we get the 50% off for the what's it called
Active
again?
asset.
Active asset, and then we get another 50% off for the
holding it.
Yep. So straight away, we're down to 500,000. Now with that 500,000, you can put it straight into super. If you've got 500,000 spare, put it into super, and then it's done. You no longer have to pay any tax. Or you can buy an asset with that $500,000 through. So Cooper Harris buys an asset, whether that be a scissor lift, a digger, a very expensive scissor lift at $500,000, or even a farm or another business. And then again, if that's $500,000, then all that tax is gone. So that's the way that we've structured our little setup here. But I guess it's really important to do it, to claim all them benefits before you hit that $6 million mark as well.
So those benefits are there so that you can reduce that, but you wouldn't want to be starting and selling a business at $2 million. You should have been, this is not the wrong, but before you well and truly got to that point, it would have been, you wouldn't have to try and jump through so many hoops.
Yep, definitely.
So just before it becomes profitable is usually when the asset value is not worth a hell of a lot.
Beautiful. So anyone listening, not advice.
Definitely not advice or accountant's advice.
Just a discussion. But have a talk to your accountant. Have a talk to Kez about it. It's as I said, it's really the worst advice I think you can ever get is if you're paying tax, you're making money. Yep, that is true. But we don't want to pay any more tax than we have to. So definitely look into that. Mate, one thing that I have no idea about, and I haven't looked into it because, as most people would say, it is 40 years away from me, is super. What can you tell me about super, and what recommendations would you have for young fellas with super that are going, it's 40 years away, I won't worry about it?
Yeah, everyone's got their head in the sand. So not that every rule is applicable, but I've probably got a pretty hard and fast one, is that you want to have a look at how it's invested, because if you've got plenty of time on your side, plenty of youth on your side, you should be looking to see how it's invested. Like if you've got your money sitting in cash or you've got your money sitting in shares and property, which one's going to grow over the next 40 years? Yeah. So it's important to understand how it's invested. This is definitely not advice, but you may be able to, as long as you're okay with it, take a little bit more risk when you're younger.
Yep.
Would be the sort of general advice there. So understanding, because we've seen the ads, right, around same income, same age, same super contributions, different superannuation balance.
Yep.
It comes down to what fees that you pay and how it's invested. So how it's invested is important, then also what fees. And a lot of super funds will claim that we've got the lowest admin fees, which is generally correct. They're usually $1.50 a week or whatever.
They got all the others too.
But they've got the 4 or 5 others too. So you'll pay an admin fee. You'll usually pay a percentage-based admin fee as well, which is usually 10 bips or 10 basis points or 0.1% of your account balance.
Yep.
You'll have an investment fee as well, so which generally range from any super fund between 0.35 and 0.6% of your balance, which continues, obviously, as your balance grows, the super fund gets paid more because just because you've got more money, the super fund now gets paid more, which is nice of them.
Yeah, of course.
You've got transaction fees, so how it's invested is important. If there's lots of transactions on there as well, you'll have transactional fees. So there are these sorts of things, and also insurance premiums, that if you tick the box when you're 14, first setting up your first job, and you tick the box and said, I want insurances, you've probably got some in there as well.
Yeah.
So there's 4 or 5 different fees that you really need to look at and go, okay, what do I want? And making small changes when you're young can really have a big impact on what that account balance will be in 30, 40 years' time.
Definitely. When do you recommend to go to a self-managed super fund?
Great question. Really depends what you want it for. There's no hard and fast rule around if you've got 3 or 4 or 500 grand that you should be doing it yourself. If you've got no desire in being, because you will need to be a director of a company for a corporate trustee or an individual trustee, but we would suggest that it goes to a corporate trustee. Plus, you've got to open up separate bank accounts. You essentially manage the money. You might say, oh, it's not going to cost us any more money because now we're not paying these super fees, but you've got to pay an accountant now to do. So with a SMSF, you've got accounting fees because there's financials to do every year. You've got an audit fee because it gets audited each and every year. You've got ASIC fees because you've now got a company structure, so you've got to pay the government the pleasure of having a company, and you've got to pay an SMSF levy. So there's like 4 or 5 different fees that you've got to continually pay each and every year to get those done. And if your fund, because it does get audited each year, if it is deemed to be non-compliant, the tax rate in super goes from 15 cents in the dollar up to 45 cents in the dollar. So
Beautiful.
Don't do that.
No. So if you're going to do it, you got to do it right.
You got to do it right.
Get the advice that you
There
need.
is some very specific rules, and a lot of people generally will say, "I want to go and buy a house inside there." I go, "Okay, cool, no problem." You got to understand that interest rates inside an SMSF are, as a general rule of thumb, 2% higher than what they are naturally. So if you're paying 5.5% on your family home, you'll pay 7.5% inside super. The reason being is that no big 4 banks, they all got out of SMSF lending, so you're now into 2 second and third tier lenders. So the rates are higher. You can't leverage off the back of that property, so you can't pull out equity out of one and go and get another. It's only one asset that you can go and do. And the question I always ask is, when you retire and you've got this house paid off inside super, great, perfect. But what happens if you need $2,000 a week and this thing's income's only $1,500 a week? Where do you get the other $500 a week to live your life? Or if you want to go to Europe and, buy business class flights and go and travel around Europe for 3 months and you need $50,000, it's very hard to sell a bathroom or a garage to get $50,000 worth of liquidity. So you're running if you buy illiquid assets for your retirement savings and you have no other assets in there, can be quite dangerous. Well, not dangerous, probably not the right word, but there's,
very risky.
Very risky. There's some certain things that you do naturally, and super can be great, especially for business owners if they're buying properties that their business runs from. It's a nice strategy.
Explain that. So essentially, Cooper Harris Super would buy a commercial property in Singleton, and then Cooper Harris Super would then rent the property to Harris Electrical. Harris Electrical pays the super rent. That's essentially it.
Yeah, you've got some sole purpose tests that you have to meet, i.e. that it has to be market rent.
Yes. Because I was going to say,
there used to be things where you could funnel money out of the business right into your super. So you can imagine if you were 58 and you got all this money sitting inside the business and you want to get into your super fund without paying the tax. So you just jack your rent up and go, okay, well now the rent's going to be $400,000 a year. I'm going to claim a tax deduction from the business because it's an expense to the business, the rent, and then the super fund only pays tax at 15 cents in the dollar on the income. So you go, fucking pretty good. It's the best tax rate that you'll get. But there is certain rules in place so that it has to be market rent, it has to be reviewed, it does get audited, and if you are deemed non-compliant, there's penalty tax rates inside super. So some caveats to it.
Definitely, as with anything. Mate, that's really all I had for you on that side of things. Is there anything else that you can think of that you want to touch on there that you do, that you recommend?
Oh, not that we do. No, every circumstance and situation is different. So it's important to understand what your long-term plans are. And sometimes if you don't have long-term plans, you make the wrong mistakes and it's very hard to go back and redo those, because especially if you're buying assets or property in the wrong entities or businesses, you've got to pay stamp duty again to move the assets. And so always understanding what you want to do long term. And if the business is going great, well, great, you really need to start looking at what the structures are, asking the right questions. Who do I need to go and see? I'm a Sparky by trade. But for me, building a house, I could probably have a go at it, but it'll take me a hell of a long time, and I don't reckon the walls will be straight. So I just prefer to pay someone to go and do that.
Definitely. Do what you're good at and pay what you're not. It's rule number one. I had this conversation with Paige last night. She's starting a business of her own this year. Wow. And just, she stopped working for Harris Electrical maybe 3 years ago, and the kids are growing up, and she's like, oh,
what do I do?
Yeah. So she's starting a little photography business, which comes out shortly, but not just, she's doing inside that photography business, she's doing what she loves. So she's going to do like birthing photos. So really, obviously, we had a few issues with our youngest child being born, and one thing that she wished was someone was there to capture the whole thing. So it's a driven love of hers, and that's what she's starting. But we touched on that last night, and she's like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I'm like, oh, like if I can give you any advice, it is do what you'll get good at, which is taking the photos, and everything else, your website, your socials, like all of that thing that's going to take up so much of your time when we also have a family, outsource. Pay. It's a tax write-off, and they can do it a lot quicker than what you can and a lot better as well. So
the poor man pays twice.
Oh, yeah.
With those sorts of things.
Definitely.
It's one thing that I talk through with around business owners is what drives your revenue.
Yep.
And that's where you should focus on your time.
Definitely. Mate, lastly, what have I got here? So, getting away from the business structure, in case that was very exciting for all the business people listening, but all the people that just want to hear about Kerrod Holland, they're like, far out, guys, let's get back to it.
Yeah.
Let's touch on last year. So, obviously, you've told us about your rugby league career through high school, your jobs, and then now starting Tennex Wealth. Going into coaching, something completely different. A lot of people think, it's just coaching. You got a few blokes, teach them how to pass the ball, you kick a ball. There's so much more to it. In my opinion, coaching and even running a football club is so much like business. Like, you need to be a people person. You need to structure it like a business. You need to have other employees around you to help coach. Firstly, what made you want to coach? And secondly, what side of the business structure that you have helped you with coaching last year?
Probably two cracking questions. There was no question that the club wasn't in the position that I would like it to see in. And going back to the rocking chair analogy, I didn't want to be sitting in a rocking chair and going, what if? I've got some pretty close mates naturally growing up in the area that we'd always talked about me going back at some stage. And to be honest, if the business was going, if the club was going well, I would have never went back. There would have been no need for me to go back, but it wasn't, and I knew that I could do something about it. And the business has provided me with a little bit of flexibility that I can spend some time on it. So it was a conversation that Em and I had, and she just things she said to me is, "You'll regret it if you don't." So I made the plunge, I went back, and you're talking about delegation around roles. It was probably the first thing that I did. I called Snake and Fez and said, can you give me a hand and would you be on board? And getting the right team and the right people, it's very, very similar to business. And I treated it just like a business. And there's a commercial aspect of it that you need from a high-level overview, but then you've also got the personal touches of you're dealing with people and people's lives and performance. So
very much like employees.
Very much like employees. And, one person will be happy. What you say to one person is applicable to them. What you say to the other person, they'll run off in tears and cry about. And you're managing when you're the first grade coach, you're managing not only the first 17, but there's also 30. Like, I think we used 37 players last year. So
I think it was more than that, to be honest. We used a hell of a lot.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people that you've got to keep in touch with, keep them on the ball, keep them interested, making sure that they're turning up, trying to get the best out of them because their ticket will be called at some stage to come and play. So it was a big passion of mine, and I tried to treat the commercial side of it. I'd been around rugby league obviously a lot, so I understood that side of things. And if you can get the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus, not that too many people had to get off the bus, but you get the right people on the bus, it just seems to work really nicely. And you just give people ownership and control in leadership roles, and they basically drive it for you.
Definitely. What's the biggest difference between coaching and playing? What did you find?
Playing's easy.
Yeah.
I wish I could just rock up and play. And it's exactly that. It's a people management side. And Dad had always said to me, if you want to learn how to deal with people and, customers or clients or employees, go and coach a football team.
Yeah.
But he said to me, not a first grade team. He's like, go and coach an under 10s or 11s, because not only have you got to deal with little Johnny, you got to deal with little Johnny's mum and dad.
Yeah, correct.
Who think little Johnny's the star.
Yeah.
And sometimes not that you let their bubble down, but maybe, let's try and work with little Johnny over here. Johnny's only getting 20 minutes a game because little Johnny's not up to scratch, or, let's work with him and things like that. So, the people management side of things is a great lesson for me, and I always want to be continuing to learn. And that was probably the trickiest part, is to understand who the players were, what they wanted, what they needed from me, and how I could help them, so that we could all, with the ultimate goal of putting their best foot forward on grand final day.
Definitely. Speaking of adversity, something I want to touch on a little bit more. So obviously that's the biggest thing with coaching. It's the biggest thing with business. Like that, to be fair, that's probably one thing that that's one thing that I mainly do is in our business. I don't work in the business much anymore at all. I look at ways to improve it. But one thing I also look at doing is working with my employees to make their time at Harris Electrical the most enjoyable time they can have, whilst also maintaining the quality of work and the work rate that we expect. It's a very fine line because obviously I want every job to go smoothly. I want that quality of work to be higher, but I don't want to ride their ass and say, righto, well,
the stick in the carrot.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
It's difficult, which I think is very similar to football as well. Speak to me a little bit about that. I reckon I was probably one of your biggest headaches last year, which we went through a few things, even to start, like when you first called me and, we had negotiations, and me being me, I was back and forth, and what I was first offered isn't what I took on the stick. But then we crossed that path, and then moving through the year, not just with me, but with other players as well. We obviously being in the halves together, one of the most critical roles in a football team. And then we had our differences there, middle of the year. How, not just that situation, but if you wanted to touch on that situation and other situations with players, how do you deal with them? So, even talking about my situation, right? So, obviously, I do what I do best and had a bit of a blow up with circumstances that I weren't happy with. And you had to make a decision there on what to do that was best for the team and the club. How do you handle situations like that? And obviously, we end up going to a grand final and winning in the halves together.
Yeah.
So the decision that was made ended up coming through at the end.
Yeah.
How do you handle that with people?
Yeah, I think the first thing you got to do is have no ego.
Yep.
If you do have an ego on those type of instances, like for you and me, if I'd have said, excuse the French, fuck you, Cooper. I've played NRL, I've been better, I'm better than you, see you later. That's not what's best for the team.
Yep.
I'm not going to get the best out of you, and you'd hate me forever for it. Not what I wanted. So it's trying to understand what you want.
Yep.
But you're talking about a stick and a carrot. Also, it's not only that circumstance between me and you, but then if I'd have let it slide, what impact has that had on everyone else in the team going, oh, fuck, maybe I can get away with that, or maybe I can let my standards slip a little bit. So you got to set the bar high, and it is hard, and it's everybody is different, and every circumstance is different. So it's dropping your ego at the door, because that helps no one.
Yep.
Is the biggest thing, and then trying to understand what you want and how I can help you as a leader and as a leader of the team and as the coach of the team. Going, okay, I can see where we're trying to get to, the end goal for the team.
Yep.
I can, and then understand that. Okay, well, what's Cooper want? Okay, well, if Cooper wants, Cooper wants X, Y, Z. Okay, well, how do I make sure that I get that to Coop with whatever he wants, because he's a big part of the team. But how do I not make sure that we don't tread on everyone else for Cooper to get there?
Yep.
So we come up with a decision that, certain things happen, and we'd had a good conversation around it, and you end up going back to reserve grade for a week.
Yep.
And it was probably one thing that I admired the most, is that you could take that and come back.
2 weeks.
2 weeks? There you go, 1 week, 2 weeks. Sorry, mate. Might have been a lie in there or something. But anyway, there was, it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, I'm probably more testing you around, you wouldn't have known this, but testing you to see what your attitude is like.
For sure.
At training, and, how you react to those sorts of things. Because if you can come back positively and impact the team positively, I think that's a great team from team culture to see. But if you'd have gone about it the wrong way, which you didn't, that decision's in your court and in your hands. And I wanted to give you every opportunity to come back into the team, like everyone, and that's up to you. That decision is not my decision. That decision is your decision. Yep. The door was always open; it was never shut. And the reason why that it wasn't just me making those decisions. We've got a senior leadership team in there that we make those decisions together. But ultimately, it comes down to my decision on what that looks like. So yeah, we did, and hopefully I dealt with it correct. I'm not going to get everything correct. It's very hard to get 100% right. I mean, no one's perfect, me included, and especially on the field, mate. I've been playing rugby league for 25, 26, 27 years. I understand shit gets heated. I've said some things to people on fields that
I remember you telling me. Yeah.
To me, it is and if Jimmy Bradley ever listens to this, mate, I don't dislike you. It's just we're playing for different teams. Yeah, mate, I get heated, and to me onto the field, it was that issue was not an issue of mine. For me, it was a water off a duck's back, but then just the ramifications of that around everyone else went, okay, well then this is an issue. To me, it wasn't an issue, but then I didn't want that to disrupt everything else.
No, definitely, and I think that's a big part of, as you said, it's not just in football, but for business people out there and people that have employees, like that's a huge part of what they're going to do. Your employees are the people that are out there making the bread on the ground, and it's probably one of the most crucial things that you need to get right as a business owner or a coach of a football team. And if you can't, that's when we go back to hire someone who can. Like I like to think of myself as a people person, but I'm not fantastic at it. So I've employed a few people in the business that if I can't, because my focus is on the business, right? I want the business to strive. And sometimes I'll miss the little things that the employees are like, well, hang on a second, what about me? And so I've employed a few people around the business that will go, well, hang on, I'm an employee of yours as well, Cooper, higher up, but I can also see it from their point of view that I might not be able to see it from there anymore. So I think that's one of the biggest things in business that you need to learn is your employees need to be treated fairly, but also like working at the place that they're working at. And it's a very fine line, as you said. If we had had our little discussion and you have turned around and said, well, you know, I can carry this team on my shoulders. I've played for the Bulldogs kind of thing, and not saying that, you know, I can make the difference between a grand final or no grand final, but things could have gone a different way if you had handled that differently. So really, I think that's one of the biggest lessons in business that I guess I've learned, and I would advise anyone else to, just be very careful with how you tread there.
Your leadership team in business, in sports, it's a thing that I've learnt the most is it is critical. Yep. And you attract the right people. Like, you know, people want to go and play for Wayne Bennett.
Yeah.
Why? Because he's a great leader.
Yep.
Like, people wanted to play for Des because he's a great leader and he would protect you, as much as possible. And I only take an instance, Dylan Walker was going through some problems that he had and he was going to court. And before Des had even coached a game there, you see the photos in the paper the next day, who's driving him to court? It was Des.
Yep.
So when he's going through a hard time, Des was standing there behind him. How do you think that's going to impact him when, the good times are rolling back around? Who's he want to play for?
Yep.
I 100% reckon he would want to play for Des. I would know that he wants to. So leadership is incredibly important, and you attract the right people. You get the right people on the bus when you're a great leader yourself, because naturally you spoke about the law of attraction.
Yep.
They'll come to you. They'll want to work for you, and they'll go, I want to work in this company, or I want to work in, I want to be part of this team because of X.
Yep.
And it is 100% the leader.
100%. And in the end, we win a grand final.
We win a grand final.
Kez retires.
Yeah.
Happy ending. Fairy tale.
Sail off into the sunset. Absolutely.
Oh, what a good time.
Yeah.
Mate, 2 questions for you before we wrap up. One around athletes and football. Any advice for people at the moment? Like, obviously, we had a lot of young 18-year-olds in the club last year. A lot of talent there as well. A lot of them playing Northern Tigers on the fringe of probably what could be the start of a good career for them. Any advice for them?
Train.
Hard work beats talent.
Yeah.
Yep.
There is nothing without it. And sacrifice, train and sacrifice. Like, I still remember it that Anzac Day's big in Singleton. Massive. And growing up, it was a massive day for us. And you'd be on the piss all day. And the first opportunity that I got to play for Cessnock, we were playing the next day. And I didn't drink.
Yep.
And I had just sacrifices that you make and just work incredibly hard and make a hell of a lot of sacrifices. Because if you don't, you've got no chance of making it.
Yep, unless you're Brad Fittler. Probably one of the only people I know that didn't work hard, but his talent took him to where he got to.
Yeah.
Only people in the world.
Yeah.
And, mate, lastly, one of the questions that I love, and I think about it all the time, if you could go back and walk little Kerrod to kindergarten on his first day, what would you say to him?
It's a great question. I've gotten to a certain level of success over you could call it success if you want to, over some things that I've done, played NRL and the likes, and worked and trained incredibly hard to get there. And I've found it also in business that you'll have a level of success, and I've been unfortunate to think that I'm very successful too early and haven't had that same drive and desire to continue. So if I was walking little Kerrod back into school, the only thing I'd probably whisper in his ear is day one. If he had the mentality that every day doesn't matter what level of success that he ever hit, it was day one, and he could remember that to keep pushing, to keep striving, to keep sacrificing, to keep working hard, to keep your discipline, like it was day one. Doesn't matter that any level of success that you ever hit. I think I probably would have played in the NRL a lot longer.
Yep.
And in business, I've been same thing. I'll do something for 3 months. I'll have a cracking 3 months, and then I'll rest on my laurels and think that this is now the new normal. It's not. You need to go back to day one. So just always have that mentality of day one. I think it'll serve you well, and just to keep that hunger.
Love it. Fantastic. Mate, thanks for your time. We'll definitely see you around the traps, maybe at footy training in the next couple of weeks.
You won't see me at training, mate. No, definitely not. No, I'll come down for Old Boys Day and I'll wear my Premiership jersey.
No, lovely. And any business owners out there that, whether just starting or whether they've been in business for a couple of years, definitely feel free to get a hold of Kez and the team. Really, really important that we set the structure up right as business owners from the start.
Yep.
Doesn't need to be from the start. You can do it 10 years in, 20 years in, doesn't matter. But as we said, tax is good, but not at the rate that we're getting taxed.
And probably, mate, if someone's listened to this entire podcast, a shameless little plug is that I'm actually starting How You Run a Profitable Business, course for business owners, so that they can understand the intricacies that needed to run a profitable business, because so many business owners that I deal with, there's no use getting financial advice if the business isn't great.
Definitely.
So start at the business first. So starting to run a couple of courses. It'll come out in April. Not sure when this is airing, mate, but first
this
one will
will
be in
air
April.
the first Friday of March, so just in time. And how do we get a hold of, where do we find this? How do we get a hold of it?
1st of March will work out well, actually, because there'll be a big push behind it. But it's limited, mate. There's only going to be 10 spots. Sit in a room with me for 2 days, and I'll show you. It's basically 12 steps to run a profitable business, and we go through everything from you and your leadership and people skills, and then clientele and who your client is, and marketing, and then structures and accounting and profits and structures and
Beautiful.
all of it. Yeah,
And you'll put this on your socials so people can see it.
it'll be there.
Lovely. Great work. Day one, never stopping.
Day one,
Beautiful.
back there. Yep.
Thanks, mate.
Very
Appreciate
good.
it.
Yeah.